Hey YouTube, Joelboy here. So, after so much time speculating the wrong thing, I finally think that I have the answer as to, I've been speculating for a long time that I think there's a traitorous mink. I think that I actually know who it is now, and there is substantial and really interesting evidence to support this, and it is not Pedro. Alright, so I know I've said Pedro a long time, I'm sorry. I still think that Pedro is something suspicious that's going on with the poneglyphs, but I do not think Pedro is the traitor who ratted out the minks for Kaido. I think it is someone else, and give me a moment to explain it to you. So before I begin this video, I'm going to rehash my previous line of thinking, which led me to believe that there really must be a mink, a traitorous mink that ratted out Raizo and brought Jack to Zou. So firstly, Wanda pretty much states the question for us, which is that they know that Jack knew that Raizo was there, and Jack somehow found the island, and these are two unanswered questions. These are two really suspicious things. We know it's already hard to find Zou because a log post doesn't point to Zou. It's specifically stated that it's like a phantom island. You can't really find it. And then it's stated later by Wanda again that they suspect, both her and Inarashi, that Jack had a Viver card leading him to Zou. So let's combine these two things real fast. So they suspect, and I believe that it's true, that Jack had a Viver card leading them to Zou, which means that he had a Viver card of somebody who was currently on that island. We also know that Jack, for a fact, knew Raizo was there, no matter how many lies the minks told him, saying that they didn't know anything about this Raizo. He could look, do whatever he wanted to do, that they wouldn't find Raizo. He didn't believe them. He knew Raizo was there, which suggests that when Raizo arrived on Zou, he was informed by somebody of Raizo's arrival, and then that same person Jack had a Viver card for that led him specifically to the island of Zou. And so this really has to be a mink. But the question then became, who was it? Well, I suspected Pedro for a long time because Pedro is suspicious, but I don't think it's Pedro anymore at all. There's some other speculation out there that maybe it was Carrot or maybe it was Wanda. Either of those characters also, there's absolutely no evidence really to support the idea that they are traitorous. I reread the entire Zou arc preparing for this post, and through all the context clues of both Pedro and Wanda and Carrot all suggest that they are very much upset about Jack's arrival on their island. But I now think I know who the traitor was, and I will explain it in depth, but I think it's Bariete, the little monkey that watches from Zou and reports everything that's going on and rings the bell. Sorry if I pronounce his name wrong, I have no idea how to pronounce it, but Bariete, and this is why. So when I reread the Zou arc, I paid special attention to Bariete's facial expressions every time Jack and the Kaido pirates were mentioned, and almost every single time something was mentioned related to the samurai or Jack, his facial response was just not what I would have expected. There's no sign of happiness, no sign of elation, no sign of relief. It's literally the opposite of what we would expect. And I'll go by this panel by panel. So the first panel that I want to talk about is after Jack was one-shotted by Zunisha. If you look at Bariete's reaction to this, he seems just overwhelmed, frightful, nervous about this happening. And this is the only person that gives this sort of response to this news. What is also interesting is the sequence of events that happened from the time that Jack started firing on Zunisha and then was eventually one-shotted by Zunisha. This all happened in a relatively short time span. And so everyone didn't really know what was going on except for apparently Bariete. He had sort of like prepared for the arrival of Jack. He knew Jack was there. He somehow had stationed lookout and saw Jack coming. And this is really interesting given this all happened in a few seconds and nobody knew what was going on until Momonosuke saw through Zunisha's eyes and was like, oh, Jack is down there. And then they asked, oh, well, is it real? Was he really defeated? And Bariete responds, oh yes, Jack's entire fleet was wiped out in one blow. Meanwhile, with a very sort of scared looking face. Going into the next piece of evidence, we see that Bariete was bribed by Carrot, and that is why Carrot ended up on the ship without anyone knowing it. And so Wanda asks Bariete specifically, why didn't you, did you know about Carrot? Oh, I see. She bribed you, didn't she? And then Bariete says something really interesting. He says, but it's not like Carrot wanted to betray you, Wanda. Now, when I first read that, I thought that choice of words was really weird. But given the context of Bariete might actually have been betraying the Minx by bringing Jack there, this line makes so much more sense. It's like, oh, this isn't such a big deal. Carrot didn't want to betray you. And then after Carrot sort of forgives him, he sort of exhales like, oh, good, I'm not in trouble. This seems really just some sort of foreshadowing here that Bariete has something to hide. And then afterwards, Wanda says to Bariete, I know, it's okay. I'm glad I learned sooner rather than later. I was actually beginning to worry where she'd gone. If Luffy's and the others are with her, she should be okay. And Bariete, this is the only scene in which we see he has a very content face, and he has a little ... of someone who's thinking. His facial response isn't actually of concern whatsoever. He just allowed Carrot to go and travel to Big Mom's territory, which could potentially put her in danger. What I think is going on here is that Bariete is implying that he doesn't really care what happens to Carrot. Now here's time for the final evidence and the most persuasive evidence. If this all wasn't enough to make Bariete suspect, at this point in time, I am now completely sold that this is the dude who ratted out the entire Mink tribe. So we know that the samurai sort of were waiting to get on, and there was this mini plot twist that was about to happen where the Minks actually knew that Raizo was there all along, and that they would welcome the samurai. They wouldn't actually be mad or be sad about the samurais arriving on the island like many of the Straw Hats sort of made us imply to think. And so finally, we see that Kinemon and Kanjuro have arrived on the island. And remember, Bariete fell off of Zoe and then sort of knocked him down. And then they arrive on land and they say, and yet we have arrived. Indeed, we have made our destination at last. My, we were indeed met with much misfortune, but alas, we have succeeded. And then look at Bariete. Look at his facial expression. This is not a dude that is happy. This is the dude who's like, oh shit. Like this isn't what I wanted. And keep in mind, my, we were indeed met with much misfortune. And keep in mind how long it took for both Kinemon and Kanjuro to actually get onto Zoe. I think Bariete was sabotaging them consistently all the way up Zunisha. And then finally they arrived and he's like, oh no, this is not what I wanted. I didn't want the samurais to make it onto Zoe. Immediately after this, Kinemon asks Bariete, but Sir Eat, you still haven't really told us anything. I'm simply searching for a warrior known as Raizo. And then all nervous, and he goes, Eat, I don't know anything about anything. Okay, that is a straight up lie. And we must ask ourselves, why would Bariete lie in this situation? This is good news. They have been waiting for the samurai. He hasn't told them anything, that Raizo had arrived, or anything that had been going on the island. This again insinuates that Bariete does not want them to be there and does not want them to know what happened to Zoe or anything, and that he's not really with the rest of the Minks and being happy at their particular arrival. And then here's the final nail in the coffin. Absolutely, just I'm sold. He then runs away from Kinemon. Kinemon says, "Wait, Sir Eat, guide us." And then he says, "This is huge trouble. All right. I have to hurry and report this." Why would this be trouble? We see just a chapter later, everyone is completely cool with the samurais being there. They had expected it, they had wanted it. If Oda chose to make, Eat say that this is huge trouble, then this is not even misleading, this is a straight up lie, okay? This is what the Minks have been waiting for, yet Bariete says this is huge trouble. And then afterwards he says, I have to report this. Who does he have to report this to? Jack? And so guys, I'm sold. Bariete is the one that we've been looking for this entire time. Bariete is the traitor. I know that you've all pointed to the Minks being decent people, but I think this right here is enough evidence to, at the very least, be highly convincing towards the possibility that it's happening. But I'm going to be 100% honest with you. I think this is more than a possibility. I think this is highly likely. Bariete basically informed Kaido and Jack of Raizo's arrival. and then using their Viver card that they have of Bariete, they were led to Zou, and that Bariete is the traitor. And so I want to do a little bit of future speculation as well that's a little bit less concrete than this. But we know that Momonosuke is staying on that island in order to figure out sort of what his power is that he has over Zunisha. We also know that Bariete is still on Zou to potentially see this happen. So I think that this could be a situation in which Bariete will inform Kaido of what transpires between Zunisha and Momonosuke to potentially further fuel the fire that Kaido has to kidnap Momonosuke, and could potentially also lead into maybe a situation in which Inarashi and Momonosuke don't actually make it to Wano as the others suspect, but rather Kaido or Jack come back, end up defeating the Minks again in order to capture Kaido, and then the Wano arc may be a rescue Momonosuke arc. Those are just some speculations that I have, but I do think that the possibility is now open to us a lot more than previously. But let me know what you think. Let me know if you disagree or you agree and why. Like the video if you like the video. Subscribe if you're new to my content and you want to be notified for my future videos. And as always, guys, have a wonderful day.